So, if you're getting ready for the TOEFL, you've probably heard that the listening section has totally changed. I know, it might seem a little complicated at first, but don't you worry. In this explainer, we're going to break it all down, make it super simple, and make sure you know exactly what's coming your way. We've got a really clear roadmap for you today. First, we'll look at the new blueprint for the test. Then, we're going to dive into the 4 new listening tasks you'll be facing. After that, we'll see how the test actually chooses a path for you based on how you're doing. And to finish up, we'll build your winning game plan. Ready? Let's get into it. All right, first things first, the new test blueprint. The biggest change you need to know about is that the test is now adaptive. It has 2 totally separate stages, and how you do in that first stage is going to decide what kind of questions you get in the second one. Okay, so here's how it all works. Everybody, and I mean everybody, starts with the exact same first section. It's called the routing module. Think of it as a sorting hat, Based on your performance there, the test sends you down one of 2 paths for the second part. You'll either get an easy module or a hard module. So, what's actually in that first module? Well, let's take a little tour of the 4 new listening tasks you're going to face. This is really the heart of the new test, so let's check them out. The very first task is called Choose a Response. You'll hear one single sentence, could be a question, could be a statement, and then you have to pick the most logical reply out of 4 choices. Now the trick here, the real key, is that the right answer is often not a direct one at all. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So if you hear the question, "Are you going to school today?" Your brain probably expects a simple yes or no, right? But look at the correct answer. Today is a holiday. It doesn't say no, but it totally implies it. See? This is all about testing how you understand real, everyday conversation. So this task is all about what they call pragmatic understanding, basically how people actually use language in the real world. You're going to get 8 or more of these questions. And remember, it's 100% listening, no text to read, and your job is to find that logical but often indirect connection. Okay, let's move on to the second task. Listen to a conversation. For this one, you'll listen to a short chat between 2 people. It's usually about some everyday topic, like getting a laptop fixed or trying to make plans for the weekend. After the chat is over, you'll answer 2 questions about it. Now, these conversations are super short. We're talking only 20 to 30 seconds. But here's the catch. The questions only show up on your screen after the audio is completely finished. That means you can't read them ahead of time. You've got to listen really carefully and be ready to remember the important details. Task number 3 is actually pretty similar. It's called Listen to an Announcement. But instead of a conversation, you're going to hear a short announcement, usually about something happening on a university campus, like a club meeting or a change in library hours. And just like before, you'll answer 2 questions. And again, just like the conversations, these are quick, and the questions pop up after you listen. A really important tip here is to listen for paraphrasing. The correct answer choice might use different words, synonyms, to say the same thing you heard in the announcement. They're not just going to repeat the exact words back to you. All right, and that brings us to the 4th and, honestly, the most important task in this first module, the academic talk. Here, you'll listen to about a 90-second clip of a professor giving a lecture on a topic like psychology or biology, and then you'll have to answer 5 questions about it. So what kind of questions will they throw at you? Well, they're going to test a bunch of different skills. You'll be asked about the main idea of the lecture, a specific detail, why the professor mentions something. You'll even have to make an inference that's like an educated guess, and maybe even figure out what the students will probably have to do next. Okay, so you finished that first routing module. Now what? Well, this is where the test gets smart. This is where it becomes adaptive. How you did on those first 4 tasks now determines which path you're going to take for the rest of the listening section. So what's the magic number? Well, you need to aim for getting about 60% of the questions right in that first module. If you can hit that 60% mark, you unlock the hard module, and that's your ticket to getting a top score. This chart here just lays it all out perfectly. If you get less than 60% right, you're sent to the easy module. Notice it has absolutely no academic talks, and your score is capped at around a 4.0 out of 6. But if you score above 60%, you get the hard module. And what makes it hard? You guessed it. More of those tricky academic talks. This is the only way to get a perfect 6.0. Okay, so now that we understand the map of the test, let's talk strategy. How do you actually make sure you get into that hard module and nail your best score? Let's build your winning game plan right now. So, listen, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Your entire strategy should be focused on mastering those academic talks. Seriously. They're like the gatekeeper to the hard module and the absolute key to a high score. Doing well on these questions is what makes the biggest difference.
So here's exactly how to crush them. First, you have to take detailed notes while you're listening. Second, be super careful of trap answers that just repeat a few words from the lecture. The correct answer usually uses synonyms. Remember? Paraphrasing. Always listen closely when the professor gives examples. They're basically gold mines for questions. And last but not least, listen carefully right to the very end for clues about what's next. Like if they say, next class we'll discuss.
And there you have it, the whole breakdown, the structure, the tasks, and the strategy. The new TOEFL listening test isn't so scary after all, right? You officially have the map. The only question left is, are you ready to go out and master the territory?